Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at all 6 hypercharges in the game right now, ranking them from the very worst all the way up to the very best. So we're going to be starting off with the worst, and that is Pearls. So we're going to be recommending some buffs as well, and also just some general thoughts about all these hypercharges. But anyways, first one is going to be Pearl's hypercharge called Paralytic. So with Pearl and her hypercharge, whenever she activates her hypercharge and then her super, it will leave a burning area for 4.5 seconds. So there's a few reasons as to why this hypercharge for me just is terrible. Like, I never would recommend buying this one. Definitely an F tier one. The first one is because, of course, with Pearl's hypercharge is the fact that it's only like around her, and the thing about her super is that it pushes opponents back. It has a knockback effect, her super. So most of the time when you even activate this hypercharge super, you actually knock them out of the burning area. So it is very counterintuitive. I just feel like I think there's a bug as well with it as well. I just don't think they really thought through the design of this hypercharge too much, because when is someone going to walk back into that super? They're never going to be able to do it. And you think of it, it basically is like a spike super, but you can't throw it as well. So there's just so many drawbacks to this one. I feel like there's just no way to really get any true value with it. The only good thing about it is, of course, you get some stat boosts. You get a 30% speed boost, damage, and shield. So at least it's pretty good, and considering Pearl is actually, I'd say, an A tier or maybe even S tier brawler in the meta right now, adding that hypercharge for at least the buff in the damage and whatever else still can be pretty good. But if you're actually thinking about the super and why people want to use hypercharge, it's pretty pointless. So for me, it's definitely F tier. If we're looking at a buff with it, I just think it needs a complete rework. I'm not completely sure on what hypercharge to do with Pearl, but basically anything that is like this, maybe like an even bigger radius, will probably be at least a quick fix. Before we get into today's video, I just want to give a huge shout out to Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring today's video. Get your hands on the new Marvel Strike Force RPG by testing the powers of the well-known Marvel characters. An assault on Earth has begun. Superheroes and supervillains are working together to defend it. Lead the charge by assembling your ultimate squad of Marvel characters, including Deadpool, Venom, Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, and more. After playing Marvel Strike Force for a while now, I can just say how visually stunning the game is, with so many cool combos. You can pair up specific characters like Luke Cage and Punisher to perform amazing combo moves to take down your enemies. The really cool thing is you can mix and match heroes and villains from the Marvel universe all into one 5-man team, which makes for so many unique compositions. My favorite character is Spider-Man. I know it's very basic, but the visuals of the special moves are just so cool on this game. How can you not love him? And also, I can't wait to unlock Venom, so I'll be grinding to unlock him soon. So go check out the link in the description below to download Marvel Strike Force today. And if you don't have the Amazon App Store yet, make sure to download that first. The Amazon App Store is a great way to save money whilst getting your hands on some amazing games. For example, you can get 20% off in-app purchases on Marvel Strike Force, but not only that, you also get some Amazon coins, and you can save a lot of money on plenty of other games. Okay, so jumping into the 5th best hypercharge in the game right now, we have a Colt's hypercharge called Dual Wielding. So with this hypercharge, all it does is makes Colt's bullets with his super bigger, 120% bigger. So not really the biggest change in my opinion. Again, it's another hypercharge that feels a little bit rushed in my opinion, just making the super a bit bigger. I would have liked to see some other cooler effects. I would have either liked maybe with the super that they have like a burning effect as well. Maybe I would have liked double the bullets with a super. I know that sounds like a lot of damage, but let's face it, Colt, he just needs some love in his base mechanics. He's really hard to use. So many different brawlers just outclass him purely because there's just so many easy mechanics in the game right now. So I would have liked a better hypercharge. So by no means is the hypercharge completely useless, though, because the good thing about the hypercharge, although the super hypercharge isn't game breaking, the added stat boost is actually pretty good with Colt. With 30% speed, 30% damage, and also a 10% shield, it makes him a viable option in Heist now. It hasn't really pushed him into many of the other modes, but still, you know, in Brawl, he can be pretty fun to play overall. I just don't really feel like it's buffed him too much. Maybe it's taken him from like the D tier to the C tier, but overall I feel like it's not really worthwhile picking this one up, especially considering it's 5,000 coins. We put it into the 4th best hypercharge in the game right now. We have Shelly's hypercharge called Double Barrel. So all this hypercharge does to her super is it makes her super shells 33% larger, so it's a little bit easier to connect your super onto the opponents, and of course it's a wider spread. So for me, I think Shelly is one of the best brawlers in the game right now, mainly because of the addition of the gadget gear and also the Hypercharge as well. It's buffed her back up into the meta, but if you just plain and simple look at her Hypercharge, the super doesn't really do too much. Like, the good thing about Shelly already is that you can cycle supers pretty fast. Clay Pigeons just makes her really strong, and she can just shut down so many tanks single-handedly right now. So I just think her super charge rate is the main reason why she's so strong. But then again, if you just pair Shelly's mechanics with a Hypercharge, it just makes her even stronger. So I wouldn't put it against you guys getting this Hypercharge with Shelly. Well, I think most people got it for free anyways, so it is a really strong one to have. But it doesn't really, like, you can use her with or without it, in my opinion. And again, the additional stat boost is probably what makes it even better for Shelly, because she gets that additional speed. You can close the gap to the opponents and then just cycle super like crazy. It's probably one of my most fun ones, in my opinion, just because of how good Shelly is. Like, I can just run all over people in Brawl with Shelly Hypercharge. It is a pretty fun. But for me, I'd have liked something a little bit extra with her super. It's a little bit boring just to make the radius wider. Maybe they could introduce maybe a little pet chicken or something to spawn when you super, just because if you guys remember back in, I think, the beta days or even like the alpha days, Shelly actually had a pet besides her. So I think that'd be pretty cool, in my opinion, to have this cool little Easter egg. Okay, so now jumping into the third best Hypercharge in the game right now, I went with Spike's Hypercharge called Blooming Seasoner. So if you're unaware what this Hypercharge does, it makes his super stick around for, well, with a 20% larger area. So it's just Spike super, a lot bigger, covers a lot more choke points. But the main reason why this is so good, because of course it combines with his mythic gear. His mythic gear, it slows people 50% more effectively. So if you think about it, a big Spike super just slows people so easily. You can then cycle super a lot quicker, maybe get a second Hypercharge super out as well. It makes Spike very good. And the good thing about Hypercharge Spike as well is because Spike is just such an incredibly versatile brawler. You can pretty much play him everywhere, probably outside from the passive game modes like Bounty and Wipeout, but he's just so strong in Gem Grab and Brawl and any other game mode as well. So you can pretty much get value out of Hypercharge in that sense. You can always play Spike, so you can rest your case in your coins, because of course it's a lot of coins to put into a Hypercharge. So for me, it's probably the most versatile in that way. I'll definitely recommend picking it up just for that alone. And of course you get the buff stats as well. So you get a 20% shield, you get 20% extra damage as well, and you get 30% speed. So that's going to be very strong with Spike, because you can capitalize on it's getting quick takedowns really fast. And of course Spike is really squishy, so getting that additional 20% shield actually does feel like a lot when you're in battle. After playing him a lot, I think got him to 1,000 trophies so easily the other week, just running through people because of how much damage he deals. But the biggest thing with me, again, it reminds me of pretty much every Hypercharge I spoke about right now, is that the main idea is a little bit boring. So they spoke about in the podcast how they didn't really want to make things too confusing and add a lot of new mechanics with the super. You know, for example, some people thought there'd be second supers, but still, it's just boring. Making it 20% larger, it's just too noob friendly in my opinion. I would like something a little bit different. So maybe my idea for this one, maybe a little bit too toxic, but I would like, with the super thrown down afterwards, maybe some spikes would fly out, you know, kind of like Fang's popcorn gadget, for example. I'm not talking like a lot of spikes, but just a few, just to add that little bit of cool effect, just to push enemies back a little bit more. Let me know if you have any ideas in the comment section about that one, but I'll just like something a little bit more creative. Okay, so now jumping into the second best Hypercharge in the game right now, I went with Brawl's Hypercharge called Jaws of Steel. So if you guys were unaware, for the longest time, Brawl was so unusable, like a bottom 10 brawler in the meta for probably over 2 years now. He was so bad. And now with his Hypercharge, he's actually usable outside of the heist. I think is a very strong option in Siege, for example. Pretty good in Brawl, definitely pushable. I'm not sure about competitive right now, because he's actually banned out. All Hypercharge brawlers are banned out, but anyways, I think he's very strong. I've tried him out a lot in ladders. So if you're unaware what Hypercharge does with Brawl, when he supers, his damage taken is reduced by 80%. So essentially you're untouchable when you're super in. So just like the animation kind of hyping up his super and how he can just run through everything. That's how he is in game. So once you get that Hypercharge, you can essentially just run into 3 people and take them down pretty quickly. And of course with the Hypercharge as well, he gets some good buffs. He gets a 30% shield buff, which just makes him so tanky. I love it. You can just run into people, even if they have supers. Even if it's a Shelly super, you can just soak up everything and take them down. Of course, the speed boost as well allows you to close the gap onto them when you're finished supering, and then charge your super even more. And especially since he got a buff to his super charge rate, it now makes it so the super charge epic gear is actually pretty valuable with him. So you can keep cycling your supers, keep being invincible with that charge, and of course combined with Stomper as well, it actually makes him quite a menacing brawler to face off against. For me, I really like this Hypercharge, and it makes Brawl so much more viable. Okay, so now jumping into the best Hypercharge in the game right now. You guys might be surprised by this one, but hear me out. I think it is Jackie's Hypercharge called Seismic Event. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, basically what this Hypercharge does is that it creates a slow nearby for 1.5 seconds, and it actually is such a big radius. I don't know how many tiles it is, but it feels like whenever a Jackie Hypercharges, I'm always slowed down. So of course this is a very good effect with Jackie. You know, you think about it in relative terms to everyone else's Hypercharge, well, 4 out of 6, all that it does, it basically just makes their super bigger. But at least with Brawls and Jackie, there's some different element to it. The slowdown effect is so good on a lot of different brawlers, and it's amazing on Jackie because of course the big thing about Jackie is the fact that she has very limited range. It's really hard for her to close the gap. So if you combine a few things, right, you've got the extra gadget gear that gives her an extra speed. Her pneumatic booster also got a buff a couple of months ago, so it's even faster now, and I think it lasts 1 second longer as well. And then you combine this with the Hypercharge as well, it actually makes Jackie viable. Like, by no means am I saying that Jackie's a really strong brawler. I just feel like the Hypercharge is probably the best and most thought out of all of them, and it actually extends her super a little bit more. It's not just a bigger Jackie super, for example, so it slows them down. It actually makes them a lot easier targets, not only for you but for your teammates as well. So I just think this Hypercharge really does make Jackie a lot better. Maybe if she gets some buffs in some other categories, she can be a much stronger brawler overall. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Let me know what you think are the best Hypercharges in the comment section below. You can see how I rank this one. I didn't just rank it on how strong they are in the game right now. I just ranked it purely off of the Hypercharge. So that's going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.